friends, it's Cindy Brumbaugh from CindyLeeBDesigns.com, independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. Today I have this fun card to show you. It uses a technique called Impossible Card Technique. A new friend of mine, Margie, had mentioned a website she loves to visit called May Made It, and then it jogged my memory that my friend Sylvia goes over there too. And so I decided to take a visit to May's site and spent a few minutes or maybe a few hours there and saw some really neat techniques, and I saw this impossible card technique. So I set out to make one myself. Now I decided to use a new bundle that's going to be in the annual catalog on June 1st, 2018. It's called the Sea of Textures bundle. It comes with a stamp set with some different sea images in it, like the coral and some seagrass and some netting. It also has an octopus in it. Now, something about octopus, they're always in the catalog. They're a little scary, but they're also very cute. And the fun thing about this octopus is he has framelits that cut him out. The Under the Sea framelits that come bundled at a 10% discount with this Sea of Textures stamp set cut out so many different things. Sand dollars, seagrass, starfish, just so many different things that you can do with this. It also has in the suite a beautiful designer paper that has so many colors to pull from. You've got Fresh Fig, Night of Navy, Tranquil Tide, Mint Macaron. You've got the neutral base of white and crumb cake. And for those of you who are mourning the loss of soft sky, this balmy blue is a beautiful blue that's coming out in our Subtles collection now. So we're going to be starting out making this card using a quarter sheet of Fresh Fig cardstock. So this Fresh Fig cardstock is just a quarter sheet of it, and you take an 8.5 by 11 and you cut it in half at 4 1/4 on the 8.5 inch side, and then you cut it in half again on the 11 inch side at 5.5, and you end up with 4 panels the same size here. And what we're doing is we're making a portrait size card, so we are going to be scoring it in half on this side. So what we're going to do is take our piece of 4 1/4 by 5.5, and we're going to take it and turn the 5.5 inch side up at the top of our Stampin' trimmer. Now the Stampin' trimmer has a raised portion at the top that holds your paper for you, and we're going to slide the left side of your paper over to the 2 3/4 mark, because 2 3/4 is half of 5.5. And we're going to score using our light gray. Remember, this darker gray is the cutting, keep it down at the bottom. So we're going to score at 2 3/4, which is half of 5.5, and then we're going to turn it a quarter turn, and now we have the 4 1/4 inch side up towards the raised portion. Now half of 4 1/4 is 2 1/8. So what we're going to do is bring the left side over to 2 1/8, and this time we're going to be making a cut down to that score line at 2 3/4. Now remember my little trick whenever we have dark cardstock is that if you put a piece of white, you can see this much better. So we're putting our scoring blade up there. We're going to bring our cutting blade and we're going to put it at 2 3/4. And because we have this white under here, we can see that that's 2 3/4. Then we just put it down, and this score line was here, and we're going to cut up towards the top. We're going to lift up our clear cutting blade. Now we're going to turn it the whole way around so the other 4 1/4 inch side is up at the top of our raised portion. And we're going to put the right side at 1 inch. 1 inch. Again, I'm going to sneak over my piece of white so that I can put my scoring blade at 2 3/4, lay it down. I'm at that score line, and this time I'm cutting up. And if you want to make sure you're cutting on the right thing, you'll know that the half that was cut down here is on the bottom, and now you're scoring from 2 3/4 up towards the top when you were at 1 inch. Now we're going to slide the left side over to the other 1 inch side that's on the left side of the cutting groove. Put it at 1, bring over a little cheater here. That way you can see your 2 3/4. You're at 2 3/4 there. You're going to let it fall down, make sure you're still at 1, and you're going to cut up. My little cheater got in the way there. So we're going to cut up, and now we have our impossible part done. So you'll notice here, how can you possibly get this piece of paper here to look like this? It is so simple. All you do is flip, just like that. Just twist one side of it, and then fold this down, fold this back, and there you've got this perfectly raised panel that sits up proudly to display your sentimentary image on there. So that is the impossible cutting and impossible folding. It's really cool. So now once we have this, I'm going to show you the measurements that end up happening. So these two skinny portions here are 1 inch by 2 3/4 on the opposite sides here, and then these rectangles here are 2 1/8 by 2 3/4. And then this middle portion is 2 1/4 by 2 3/4. Now, if you were busily scratching that all down on a piece of paper that you're probably going to end up throwing out anyhow, don't worry about it. You can find all these measurements, all the supplies, the colors, all the embellishments I use on this card. They're always on my blog with the post, cindyleebdesigns.com. So we've got this. Now what we want to do is put a 1/8 inch border of the fresh fig around each of these pretty pieces of designer paper. So what I had to do is just take an 1/8 inch from each side. So what I end up having is a 1 7/8 by 2 1/2 on these parts, and then I have 3/4 by 2 1/2 on these skinny portions. So what I did is I just adhered them onto the panels. So now I've got these panels here because I made a video before that did not turn out. So be patient with me. So I already had this made. So I just put my 2 matching ones here, my 2 matching ones here, and then my panel here. So this piece here that goes across the front is really a piece to stabilize your card. So what I did is I took a piece of fresh fig and I just cut it to 4 inches by 1 inch. And then the white that goes across here is still 4 inches, but I brought it into 3 1/4. And then I just stamped, "Thanks for reaching out." If there's any sentiment in this catalog that is just perfect, it's the "thanks for reaching out" and having an octopus. So what we're going to do is put some adhesive right on the edges, and we're just going to attach it so that we have some stability to the card. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to take all those die cuts that are in the framelit set under the seat, and we're going to take all the die cuts and put them on a piece of Tranquil Tide and roll them all out. Then we're going to take and roll out a whole set of them in fresh fig, and then a whole set of them in mint macaron. So you're going to have a whole collection and a pile of pretty little things to play with when we go to put it together. But before we do that, I want to show you a little trick I did with the octopus. So I used my Stamparatus, and we just had a blog hop. Stampin' Up! Had a blog hop where they showed demonstrators giving tips for the Stamparatus. So I had decided to use this one tip, and that's the tip that when you want to do multiple die cuts. And so what I did is I just took a piece of paper, just a piece of paper that's big enough to fit around whatever image you're using, and then you just ink up your image and close your plate on your Stamparatus. And then you've got a stamped image. Now what I did was I took this stamped image, I took it over to my Big Shot, rolled it through my Big Shot, and I came back and I pulled out my image. Then I took this to use as a template, and then I used my magnet to hold it down. And just be careful with your magnets because you want to just only use one at a time at all possible, because they're very strong. They aren't defective if they end up hitting each other and breaking. It's not, Stampin' Up's fault. It's just the nature of a magnet from science class. So just be really careful, because if you bring them together, they can like smash, but also you can get your fingers caught too. So you're going to put your template right back on there, put your magnet down, and then what you're going to do is die cut some blank octopi. So then you're going to put that octopus right into that blank spot that you had die cut. And then you can ink up your octopus with your fresh fig. Another tip they had mentioned too is that anytime you're using your Stamparatus, if you just put a stamp set, a clear mount stamp set under it, it has just the right depth to give you an even surface to work with. So I inked it up. Now this image here in the Sea of Textures has a lot of texture to it. So it's kind of got a mottled appearance with some little divots and stuff. So don't think that you've stamped it wrong if it doesn't come out perfect. But what you're going to do is now just close your Stamparatus, and then you're going to press it onto that die cut that you put into that open space, and you open it up and it's perfect. Now here, this needs a little bit of ink on it, so I'm just going to ink up his head a little bit. And the nice thing about the Stamparatus is you can go right back in. So I just knew that that little part of the head needed done. And there we go. It's perfectly done. You can just pop this out. And the other thing that's really nice about this, you know, when you go to use your magnetic plate on your Big Shot and you roll it through and it moves a little bit on you, this actually, not only does it make it great for making multiples, but it also makes a perfect image that's die cut, and you don't have to worry about it sliding or slipping around on you. So then that is what I'm just going to put this in here too, since I didn't clean it off yet. And that is how I got my scary but cute little octopus. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is look at this card and see how I build up the embellishments here. So there you go. So what I did is I die cut some net in the Tranquil Tide. And for the sake of a video, because it does take a long time to get this all put together, I just went ahead and I built up my images here. So I just mixed my colors. I used the Tranquil Tide for the netting, and then I did some mint macaron for this tall seagrass. Then I did some coral in the fresh fig, and then I used a little piece of the sand dollar that has like a starfish coming out of it. So I added another bit of Tranquil Tide to that, and then I just am going to adhere it. And I can just do this with some snail here. And I popped my octopus up. And then I just popped it on to my card, making sure that this netting doesn't go above this line here, because this plane of the card here is what's going to go into the envelope, and you can't have it sticking out. So I had to trim off my netting a little bit. So then I used that for my focal image of the octopus there. Then down here gave me a wonderful opportunity to build up some more here. And what I did here is, once again, I just built up all the different colors. I used the sand dollar here, and on this sand dollar, the star, I called the starfish, pops out of there, and I just put a piece of tape on the back of it to keep it in there. And so I just built up using different colors, Tranquil Tide, mint macaron, and the fresh fig. And then I can just put some adhesive on the back of it, and I can just pop that on the front. Whoop. What did I just say? You can't have anything sticking out. So I put let's see. I thought I saved myself from doing this. Let me see here. I want to be able to put, there we go. So then I built up some different images down here, and then you still have these panels here to decorate. So what I did is, here you can see I inserted a mint macaron into the Tranquil Tide on this sand dollar to add a little bit of interest to the card. And then I put some fresh fig coral behind there, and then I decorated up this side of the card. And then this side of the card ended up with some tall seagrass and fresh fig, and then a sand dollar and mint, and some coral in the Tranquil Tide. And then I was thinking, okay, this card needs a little bit more on it. So I used these beautiful little Share What You Love artisan pearls. These are going to be in the bundle all through May 1st through 31st, the Share What You Love bundles, and you'll find these in here. And I used some of the Tranquil Tide. So what I did is I pulled and put some Tranquil Tide on here. And then I put a couple up here. And one on the middle. I had a stray one that fell off my finger a little bit ago and I found it. These are precious pearls. Okay, so I put, and then I thought, well, I don't want to use them all up on this card. So then I just thought, well, there's white on the card, so why not bring out my just plain old white pearls? And then I just put some white pearls on the card as well, since we had some white on the card. So that way you're not using all your special pearls up at one time. Because believe me, I would want to put every single one of them on there. I even wanted to put some of those yellow ones on, but I thought, no, that won't look too great on this color scheme. So I just jazzed up the card with a few pearls. And there you have the Impossible card. Very simple to do with just a score line and 3 cuts. So you can make this card very easily with your Stampin' trimmer. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me at 724-323-2296 via phone call or a text message. You can also visit my blog, CindyLeeBDesigns.com. Leave a comment. You will see all the measurements and all of the supplies that I made, that I used in making this card. And if you have any other questions, you can email me at cindyleeb@gmail.com. I hope you enjoyed this. Thanks for buzzing by, friends.